don't think I'm getting the mob. What's up, everybody? Going to get started here in just a couple of minutes for TV and radio for Saturday Sports Countdown. Randy, if you'll move your mic or whatever, it'll get in that real loud roaring sound again. So I don't know what you did yesterday. There you go. Whatever you do right there, brother, you knock it out. There you go. Sounds a lot better now. Yeah, I can hear you.
Sounding better.
Yep.
Mic now. Okay. Well, it is what it is. The setup doesn't change. You unplug something and plug it back in, and you're good to go.
I don't understand it, man. I don't understand it. So it's anyway, glad to see everybody, man. We got a lot to talk about this morning. 2 hours of Saturday Sports Countdown coming your way, and we're excited. We'll go live here in about 45 seconds on TV and radio. Our man Russ back there in the studio. So appreciate Russ every week, handles our business here on Saturday Sports Countdown, and always a fun time. Some good games last night, some not so good games last night.
More good than bad, though.
Yeah.
And the ones that were bad, I think we were expecting.
Sure.
And they played out that way.
I agree with that.
Tech and Georgia game.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking about the high school game.
No, I know what you're talking about. I'm saying that you had added that to it. It was a great Friday night of football, wasn't it?
Yeah, I stayed on that Tech game most of the time. So
yeah.
All right, here we go. Welcome in, everybody, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Glad to see everybody this morning, wherever it is that you're tuning us in, whether it be on Charter 701 or you're tuning us in on social media or YouTube. We love to hear from you each and every Saturday. We'll talk a lot of high school here in the first hour, maybe more 30 minutes-ish and then we'll devote the rest of the show to college because today is Iron Bowl, and Luke will join us at 8 o'clock. So we'll be bringing him in to talk about this Iron Bowl coming up. And, man, the mood and the mindset has changed a lot for this game over the last couple of weeks. So a lot of stuff to get to this morning. Again, no phone calls as we take it to the podcast format here on Saturday Sports Countdown. But we will take your comments on Facebook and YouTube. So make sure you get those in. We're going to go through the scores from last night, the semifinal rounds, 1A through 6A. The entire Super 7 is set next week. Randy and I will be over to call those games along with the rest of our crew. I do want to pause for a second and say our thoughts and prayers go out to a dear friend of ours that's part of our crew in the passing of his wife last night. So, Stacy Mills' family is in our thoughts and prayers. And again, just hate to hear that. Very, very tough situation, especially this time of year. Of course, it's never a good time, but especially around holidays, this close to Christmas, our prayers go out to him and his son and, some peace over the next few weeks.
Yes, he's been fighting this along with Amy for a couple of years now, and you and I've had some broadcasts and many setups over the last couple of years where he's had to run all over the state to get things set up and then go back and be with his wife. So Stacy's as good as they make them. We wouldn't have what we have with the HSA radio network without Stacy Mills. He's been producing for us for well over a decade. He's taken care of us in some spots where if you were tuning in a few minutes before we went on air, you can see firsthand how bad I am technically, and Brett's not a whole lot better. He's better than me. But Stacy gets our broadcast out there and does a tremendous job. So our thoughts and prayers do go with him. He loves high school sports like no other. He loves Prattville like no other. He is the ambassador for Prattville, Alabama. So Stacy, we're thinking about you, buddy. We love you, and hope that there's some prayers, many prayers coming from around the state for you today. I'm sure there are.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So again, tough situation, but Stacy's he's a tough guy, and with a lot of love and support down there, he'll get through this. He and his son, and we'll also be here for him. Glenn already comes in and says congratulations to Coach Burns at Wadley, heading to the state championship. We're going to get to that here in just a little bit. We're going to go down these scores and tell everybody, if they weren't able to watch or hear any of those games, how those turned out. So some big football games, and I guess we'll just start in 6A. We'll start that way, and we'll roll down as Saraland knocks off Pike Road 47-10. Saraland, I don't think I was going out on a limb, Randy, yesterday or the day before when I said I didn't think this one would be close, although Pike Road had played better. And it wasn't. This is a couple of years in a row now that Saraland's been able to take care of business pretty easily in the semifinals. They'll take over, or they'll take on Parker, who beat Oxford 20-7. And Oxford had plenty of chances last night. Let me say that. Whether it be a penalty that killed a drive, or just not executing, but driving down inside Parker territory numerous times and coming away with no points. So Oxford, I know it again, tough way to lose, tough way to end your season, but kind of had a feeling going up against a loaded Parker team that it was going to be like this, maybe play out this way, and it did.
Well, they just struggled, as you said, moving the football. Parker is so good on the defensive front. Jordan Crawford, Brett, he's out of this world. I'm very happy that Auburn University is getting him because he already looks the part. You and I called a quarterfinal matchup with Malik Blockton for Pike Road, and he really took it to us last year, but I thought he needed another 20 or 30 pounds to be ready to play at the college level. Well, heck, Brett, he put it on in the offseason. We already see what Malik Blockton's doing. Well, let me tell you about Jordan Crawford. He doesn't need it. He already looks the part. He's built up. He's strong. He's very physical and active. And to go along with the rest of that defense, that's where their bread is buttered. They ran the football and made some plays. Naeem Alford kind of went back in the Wildcat and scored the first touchdown on a snap back to him. He is a great athlete, but they're not dynamic offensively. But when you play defense the way that Parker does, and you have the Bows and Joes that they have, Brett, you don't necessarily have to play great offense. You can win football games 20-7. And that's what they did last night. So the Thundering Herd moves on. Saraland gets a rematch with Pike Road last night. Both of those teams met again in the semis last year. Pike Road gets them at their place. It didn't matter. The difference here is Saraland, they're pretty good on defense, and they've got, Antonio Coleman and others on that side of the ball. But, Brett, you've got to try to hold them to under 40. You've won on the defensive side if you can hold them under 40 with KJ Lacey at the trigger. He's as good a high school quarterback as we've had in this state over the last 20, 25 years that I've seen. Can do it all, can run, but wants to throw that football down the field, and look at his yardage. He's been a starter there at Saraland. Let me say this. He's been a starter at Saraland since the 10th grade. It's not like there's not great quarterbacks on top of great quarterbacks wanting to come through that program. It's like Trent Seaborn at Thompson, Brett. When you are the starting quarterback at Thompson High School in the 8th grade, something special about you. And KJ Lacey is special. So that'll set up a great matchup. An unbelievable offense from Saraland matched up with what looks to be as talented a defensive side of the ball as we've seen in this state in quite some time in Parker. So I'm looking forward. I'll be calling it with you next Friday night at 7 o'clock. So that'll get things kicked off with our rundown of 6A through 1A. We've got some local teams that really had good nights last night too, Brett.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. We're going to get to those here in just a little bit. Heath said, "Shock will shock me if Moody beats Catholic in 5A. War Eagle fellas, Bama's down some starters on D today. Clean game, I feel like. There's a chance. Yeah, we're going to dive into the Iron Bowl 1,000% here in just a little bit. But yeah, we'll dive into the 5A class here in just a second as we move out of 6A. But that Saraland team will be trying to get back and get over the goal line this time, as they fell short last year against a very good Clay Chaltville team. And DJ Barber makes that tackle on KJ Lacey. I'm sure he relives that play probably every single day that he wakes up. Now he's a week away from getting a chance to come back and kind of avenge that play at the end of that game. So they'll be taking on a really good Parker team, and we'll see how that one plays out. All right, into 5A, as Heath just said, Moody knocks off Leeds 42-0. I mean, again, before we talk about Catholic and Viger, Moody has quietly, I'll say quietly, but quietly sat up there in the northern side of the bracket and just taking care of business. And had a chance to talk to Coach Gaines earlier in the year, and that was his mantra. We're going to play Gainesville, Georgia. We're going to play Oxford. We're going to play tough teams. That way, when we get to the playoffs, we're not surprised by anybody. Nobody's going to be better than who we played in the regular season. So he's got his Moody Blue Devil team prepped as they go into this state championship game.
He's got a great quarterback, for one. And he's a big, tall lumberjack of a quarterback, about 6'5", can really throw it all over the park. And Brett, when you go out there and you add 4 or 5 other D1 prospects that they've added to this Moody roster over the last couple of years, you can put together a pretty good football team in Class 5A. So it will be a little bit of the same dynamic as we're seeing in this other classification. You got an offensive-minded team, which it's funny I say that an offensive-minded team that held the opposition to 0 points in the semis, but I'll say that about Moody. I think Moody can score with the best of them. And then on the opposite side, when you're looking in Class 5A, Montgomery Catholic, the last couple of weeks I've watched, teams have just struggled getting anything going offensively. Viger did, Central Clay did. They have a few opportunities, but you cannot miss opportunities against Montgomery Catholic. If you do, you're not going to get many more. Very, very talented on the defensive side of the ball. So another great matchup, Brett. I don't go into that one going Montgomery Catholic's going to run away with this thing. I don't think that at all. I think both of those matchups at least present potential for any of those 4 teams to win the state championship. And we'll be calling that one also on Thursday night. And the only thing you can ask for as a broadcaster is a good football game. And I think we'll get good ones in both of those two.
No doubt about it. All right, we're going to take our first break here on the Saturday Sports Countdown for TV and radio. Again, I want to remind everybody we'll be here for a couple hours this morning getting your Iron Bowl Saturday started. So get your comments in. We'll go ahead and step aside, take our first break here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. I'm going to get my TV monitor up real quick.
Okay. You cleaning up any, Brett? Y'all keep the comments coming through. Try and run through those. Brett's been popping them up a lot during these podcasts in the morning. TV broadcast this morning if you're just tuning in wondering what's going on. So we're just at break on the TV and radio side. Be back with you here in the next couple of minutes.
We can all clean.
Is it clean now?
The TV.
Is my signal strength okay or what?
Yeah, it's better.
It's better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm not moving then.
Don't move.
I'm not. Reminds me of the first football game I called with you on the road in Valley, Alabama.
You don't move.
What was that system you had?
I don't remember. I threw it away.
Wasn't it a car? It was a car phone.
It was a bag phone. Now the signal strength on those, you didn't have to worry about squat, dude. You had to worry about nothing on signal strength. But
so it was the rest of the equipment that we were having.
Well, there was a short in the power box.
Mm.
In that little cigarette lighter thing. So I mean that's why you couldn't move, man. If somebody moved, the whole power went off. The phone was fine. So
Brett was giving that look, y'all.
The Chronicle.
Don't move.
I was like,
just stop moving. Don't move your head. Just sit. Can you sit? You sound like me talking to my kids. Can you sit still, please?
Just don't breathe. So,
Brett, that's 20 plus years ago.
That was a long time ago, man.
Yeah, we remember a lot different then.
We remember where we were at Valley,
Alabama.
Yep, that's right. All right, we got about 30 seconds, guys, before we come back on TV and radio. Glad you joined us here on the show this morning. We'll be taking Iron Bowl predictions here in a little bit.
Luke will be with us at 8. Had a couple of questions this week. Do y'all still do a show that goes both ways, Auburn and Alabama? And yes, our Tuesday and Saturday show is still Sports Blitz.
All right, here we go. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. I want to thank both of them, longtime partners here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. Couldn't do the show without them. Just great partners all the way around. So go by JR Sports Bar and Grill. They'll take care of you here on Iron Bowl Saturday. They'll make sure you got everything that you need, the food, the catering. They'll take care of you for your tailgates. All throughout. So again, heading into the holiday season, we just got finished with Thanksgiving. We'll head into Christmas here in rocket fashion, like we always do. JR Sports Bar and Grill, one of your sources for catering your Christmas parties and hosting your Christmas parties and all that. So make sure you go check out JR Sports Bar and Grill here in downtown Alexander City. We're talking about the AHSA semifinals last night in football. And we'll move right on into the rest of that 5A class. As we said, Montgomery Catholic knocked off Viger 21-7. The most points that Vigers had scored on them all year. So I'm not surprised by that. Was one of those fill you out games early, but Montgomery Catholic was able to get a couple touchdowns on the board, and you kind of felt like that was going to be enough. Viger was struggling offensively last night with what Catholic was posing. It's just a good football team, man. It's a good football program. They've been solid for about 5 years now, and I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. And, Moody is a great football team. They'll be there in the state title game as their opponent, but it's going to take a good effort. Montgomery Catholic getting over the hump finally last year and winning that state championship. Then they move up a classification, and they've had no problem here in 5A this year.
Well, it's not just the sport of football, Brett. They're really good in everything right now. Have built a complete athletic program there at Montgomery Catholic. Just a really, really well-coached, disciplined football team when you watch them play. I watched the majority of last week's game on Friday night with Central Clay. And it had to feel exactly like we saw last night. The score was about the same. It felt like the offensive output for their opponent was about the same. Just a real struggle to get anything going. And you try, to hit you up the middle a couple of times. In that classification, you're going to see a little different with Moody because they throw it all over the park. But they'll want to hit you over the top with some deep passes. But it's a couple of runs in the middle and then try the outside. The thing about Montgomery Catholic I'm impressed with is their defensive end play. You cannot break containment on them. They control the edges so well, make it so tough to try to hit them on the perimeter, and they've got great athletes to go along with it, Brett. So just Kirk Johnson's doing a tremendous job. Took over for Aubrey Blackwell, where he was his coordinator, and Aubrey moved on, and Kirk took the job, and I think he's lost 2 football games since he's been the head coach, and won state championship. So not many programs in this state or any state can say they have the record of Kirk Johnson right now as a head coach at Montgomery Catholic.
I think his nickname's Juice, and he's got the juice going in 5A, no doubt about it, with Catholic at 13-0. Again, going to be a good 5A matchup. You and I'll have that game next week in Birmingham. Moving into Class 4A, Cherokee County knocked off West Morgan. Both teams were 13-1, 35-19. Cherokee County will return to a state championship game, Randy, and it's not uncommon for that program to make it to a Super 7 state championship.
Just great athletic program again. One that I had no clue who they were 20 years ago when we started, doing these broadcasts for the HSA, but now I do. And now I know about Piedmont. Now I know about Fife. And, there's programs around the state that just embrace athletics, embrace their kids, and make sure that they put them in the best spot to be successful. And Cherokee County, I knew that right off the front. I think maybe the first or the second year that you and I called the Super 6 back then, they won a state championship, if you remember. And, they're back in it. They ran up against the buzzsaw Montgomery Catholic last year. This year, they're in a different classification. I'm sure they'd like to get over the hump and win one. Their quarterback went out last year. That made it tough. They really had to go to more of a Wildcat-esque offense in the state championship game, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
They stayed in it until late. They just couldn't overcome the great offensive play from Montgomery Catholic. So Cherokee County, no surprise at all.
They got another buzzsaw waiting on them. Not saying that they can't beat them, but not many people have this year as Jackson defeats St. Michael 49-28. That's about what you see every week when you look at their scores. Just put up gobs of points, and teams are able to score, but they're not able to score enough. And St. Michael had a great run this year with Phillip Rivers. Falls short there in the semifinals. They'll be back. Don't worry. That team really is building. He's got a great foundation, and that's going to be a good football program for a while down there. But Jackson's been the class of 4A all year. They'll be the favorite going into that game, no doubt. But again, when you get to the state championship game, it's a flip of the coin. You're 4 quarters away from holding a blue map. So I know Jackson wants to finish the deal. They've been the best team in 4A all year. They want to finish that with a state championship there in 4A. He said they play D as sound or more sound than teams at Clay County in the 90s. They don't get up the field. They stay home and they tackle you. He's talking about Catholic there. So
that was my takeaway too. Brett and I have been doing broadcasts together for a long time, and he knows one of my pet peeves is getting out of your lanes, especially on the perimeter with your defensive ends and your outside backers. If you do that and you give up the sideline against great athletes, they're going to make big plays, and it's coachable not to do that. Now you got to stay structured and do exactly what you're taught, but it feels like Montgomery Catholic does that as well as anybody, and I'm sure Clay County back in the day was unbelievable at it. I know it was one thing when Danny was at Benjamin Russell, he stressed, when we had Varner and some others at defensive end, Brett, we were terrifying. You couldn't get outside on us, and makes it tough trying to draw up plays if you can't hit somebody on the outside consistently and pick up big chunks of yardage. I remember calling a game with you many moons ago against Briarwood, and Andy Davis kept coming up from safety, and we'd try that outside, and buddy, he'd knock us down, and we couldn't do anything. Finally, we found a way to really power it on them, if you remember that night. But it's difficult when you've got a team that's well coached that does that, and Catholic definitely is.
No doubt about it. We're going to take another break here on the Saturday Sports Countdown for TV and radio. Everybody stay tuned. A lot more coming up right after this.
Did you have any surprises last night?
Not really.
Not me either.
They kind of all went about how I thought they would. Piedmont getting killed was a little bit shocking.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
I didn't think
Wadley winning as easy as they did.
That was crazy. Did you say that score? It was 32-8. and then it was 32-25.
Yeah, I know it. I mean, I
And then
couldn't
it was
believe how
like
easy.
Hackleberg had come back, and I was like, man,
Yeah.
And then you look up again, and it's 50-something to 25. I'm like, good Lord.
I think they had 38 points, like a couple in the first half.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Hackleberg had to clean it up big time. I'll be right back. Let me get some coffee.
Thoughts out there, guys, on the games last night? Getting down here to Super 7 action. It'll start next Wednesday with the 7A championship game. Phoenix City and Thompson. Appreciate it, Rush. Russ, thank you. I'm not calling you Rush like the band Rush. So, although I think Russ probably likes to. Hey, Russ, your Bulldogs hung in there with Ole Miss last night.
I don't think he's happy about hanging in there with them, Brett.
Well, they're they're 0 whatever. I mean, it wasn't bad. I mean,
well, what if Russ comes back to you this afternoon about 7 o'clock and says, "Congratulations, Brett, your Tigers hung in there with Alabama today."
I guess he'll be talking to himself because he's an Auburn fan too. So I guess he'd say they both hung in there. How about that?
Oh man, I don't think you'd be happy about the hanging in there though.
This year, I mean, if we don't go up there and get blown out by 24, I'll probably be okay with it.
Oh,
I mean, after the last 3 trips up there by an average of 24 points, we've been beaten. So yeah, if we can have a chance in the fourth quarter, I'll be okay with it, especially the way we've played this year. Just don't turn the ball over. Give yourself a chance. Don't turn the ball over. People waking up now. They're like, well, I want to wake up at 7 on Saturday. Just catch a replay.
Hang in there with us, y'all. This is TV broadcast, so we go down for about 3.5 minutes for the television break. Russ, stay up with you.
Russ said he can take hanging in there right now. He said the season was lost after the Florida game. He'd written it off. So
how many of you out there comment in? Do you think Brett's going to be okay with hanging in there?
All right, here we go. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Glad to have everybody with us this morning. You can give us your comments on YouTube and Facebook, obviously. Those have been coming in this morning. Continue to roll in. We'll get to those, and we're going to run down the rest of these scores here in the classes 6A through 1A. We all know that Thompson and Phoenix City will be your 7A game to get things started next Wednesday in Birmingham. But moving right along here, we've done 6A through 4A. We're now down into 3A. Houston Academy will make their first appearance since we've been doing this into the Super 7. They will take on Mars Hill Bible, who knocked off Piedmont. But Houston Academy knocked off a very good Southside Selma team, 48-28 last night. I don't know a ton about Houston Academy like I do a lot of these other teams, but they've navigated their way to Birmingham.
Well, I do because I get a lot of information in from Houston Academy. And by the way, let me jump in right there. Message us when you've got kids or you got programs that you don't feel like are getting enough press or publicity. We got to hear from you. Some programs do a tremendous job of getting information into the HSA and myself. Others don't. And we don't report on those that don't get the information in anywhere near as much as we do on the Houston Academies of the world. I get a lot of info every week on Houston Academy. And so we've given, I don't know how many athletes of the week and region athletes of the week by the Alabama Community College system, Brett, based off of that information we get. Here's a couple of things you need to know, Brett, and everybody else needs to know. Houston Academy's got one of the best quarterbacks in the state. He's versatile. He can run the football, but, buddy, he has thrown the football kind of like Preston Lancaster for Tuscaloosa Academy. He's thrown for yards that not many in the state ever have. So Houston Academy will be very explosive on the offensive side of the ball. But surprisingly enough, they've had a couple of players defensively that have also, in the last couple of weeks, won some Athletes of the Week award. So 48 points, that's about what you're going to get with Houston Academy every week. Be a great matchup with a Mars Hill Bible team that can really power it at you. Got a great running back there at Mars Hill Bible. So should be a great Class 3A game. And that game will come, midday on Thursday? No, it'll be the start on Thursday morning.
Be the very first game at
11 o'clock.
Yeah, that's right. So looking forward to that one as they go 3A, 1A, 5A that day. So that's how that'll go. So again, good football team found their way to Birmingham to play for a state title. They'll take on a really good Mars Hill Bible team, 49-20 over Piedmont. That's eye-opening. The discrepancy in the score there. That was a great Piedmont team this year. But Mars Hill Bible, I mean, we're used to seeing them too, man. Another one of those powerhouse programs that can play up and down classification from Florence. And that's going to be a tough football game. It's going to be a good football game. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're starting to see more of these. You've got AISA teams becoming HSA teams. A couple of the new ones didn't quite make it through to championship games, Brett, but I bet they do in the years to come. But you look at those two communities. You got Florence, you got Dothan. Those two communities now have very big private schools that have outstanding athletic programs. And it's like I said with Montgomery Catholic, it's not just football that they've created a really good athletic program. It's pretty much all of them. The girls' athletics are through the roof. The boys too now, and they do a great job of marketing those programs, Brett. So I just keep prodding along out there that send information into us. The reason that we do what we do with all of our social media outlets is to clean up some holes here in the state that local newspapers used to be able to cover, but now you don't have as many of those, and you definitely don't have as many out on the beat as you once did, even with the statewide broadcast. So what we do with our social media outlets, we try to spotlight as many of those kids as we can, but we need to hear from you. So find us out there, AHSA Radio Network, send us information in. And those two programs I know a lot about because I've been talking about them for a couple of years now.
Well, and Houston Academy gets us that part of the state. We haven't seen a team from Dothan make it to the state championship since we've done it. That's kind of been the outlier. That's been the outlier section of the state. There's a big population in the Wiregrass and on down into Dothan, and we'll see some teams like Charles
Northview
Henderson
used to be,
Northview, but Charles Henderson up more closer to Troy, and those teams have made it, but really Dothan proper hasn't had that. So down in Houston Academy, they'll be representing the first time in a long time, at least as long as the last 20 years since you and I have been doing this. All right, we'll go down to 2A here. Tuscaloosa Academy knocked off Sulligent 20-14. It was a close game. Sulligent finishes with a 9-5 record. They had one of the worst records of teams in the semifinals left, but played a really good football game against Tuscaloosa Academy, just not enough there to knock them off.
Preston Lancaster, the difference last night was Tuscaloosa Academy didn't win this football game, throwing it all over the park and scoring in the 40s. They only get to 20. So really good teams find a way to win when maybe they're not playing up to the standard that they played the majority of the year. And so Tuscaloosa Academy, first time I think they've made it through, Brett. Now
That's
playing
right.
for a state championship, another private school, and tremendous growth there with a big private school in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and getting through to championships on the HSA side really bodes well for some of those schools. And right now, when you look through the teams that have made it through, there's probably half of these teams that are in are private schools, Brett.
Yeah, we're seeing that number increase for sure as we see the years go along. And again, you're seeing a lot of firsts. You're seeing a lot of teams that have never made it find their way to the state championship game. So Tuscaloosa Academy will take on a very game Reeltown team. This is exactly how I think you and I knew this game probably would end up. After watching Highland Home all year and watching Reeltown all year, neither team has had a problem scoring, but you knew when they found each other, and it was kind of a collision course, that points would be at a premium, and they really were last night because these are two outstanding defensive teams. And once again, for Highland Home, Reeltown is a nightmare that won't go away. And they lose games like this almost every year. I mean, it's 8-7 or 13 to, whatever, 10, or it's always a close game. And you look up and it's another one like that. And it was 0-0 going into the fourth quarter. And, Reeltown's able to make a play and score, and then they're able to make a goal line stand basically right there at the end of the game to keep Highland Home from winning that football game. So just another great one, but Highland Home can't get over the hump against Reeltown.
Well, Reeltown just finding ways to win. They did last year, Brett. BB Comer found ways to win. You remember it was the kicking game last year that got them through. This year, defensively, they found ways to either have a drop ball or to make a big play back in the secondary to keep Highland Home off. And Brett, it was multiple times. It just wasn't that last drive. It's multiple times that that Highland Home had opportunities to score the football and just couldn't get it in. Reeltown, I watched a good bit of that ball game last night, which, by the way, NFHS, it's so nice to be in one outlet on one app. And just roll from one game to the next. You go down to a commercial break, I go over to the other. So I have a real take on what's going on with some of these teams with the opportunity to watch the ball games on NFHS. It's worth the money. If you haven't subscribed to your local high school, I highly recommend that you do. Those Pixelot cameras, Brett, give you a lot of broadcasts, not only for football where you've got a call, but they just turn those things on and you've got basketball going on and may not have a call in the background, but you're able to watch your kids, your grandkids or whatever. And that has been nice. But really good win for Reeltown. They struggled mightily moving the football on Highland Home. And Jacaleb Falk, he was very gimpy last night. One of his legs, I don't know what the issue was, but really, really gimpy and never really got into the flow of the game to make any big time plays for Highland Home. They had some other guys that you can tell were just about they may not have been the first one off the bus, but they had 4 or 5 other guys that everybody else in the state up and down classification would have liked. But it tells you what type of program Reeltown has. And it's year in and year out. They're right here beside us, Brett, and they do it as good, if not better, than everybody in our region when it comes to high school football.
No doubt about it. All right, we got to get to another break here for TV and radio. Everybody stay tuned. A lot more to come here on the Saturday Sports Countdown.
It must be freezing out there this morning.
Cold, man.
Oh, my heater hadn't cut off since I got up this morning.
It's cold out there, buddy.
And grab his coffee.
Coldest weather we've had.
Did it go in the 20s last night or is it tonight?
I think it's tonight.
Yeah.
All right, so we're about finished with HSA, so we're going to be full alt college here and Iron Bowl talk here in hour number 2, really for the remainder of this hour. And then hour number 2, we got Luke joining us. We got Wade going to be jumping in with us as well. go ahead and then send him a message.
Good old coffee, Brett.
Wade going to join us in
I don't know
our.
how you do it in the morning. Huh?
Not drinking that stuff. Wade's going to join us in the second hour too, so we'll have a good group, little round table.
I'll probably do a couple of segments and let him have it.
Well, Wade's got to go at 8:30.
Okay.
Let's see.
You cue us in, Brett.
Yeah, I will.
That's where it gets hard when it gets.
I will. I'll run it. I'll run it. 3:31. All right, get your comments in, guys. About to finish up high school, and then we'll dive into college. A lot to talk about. We're going to talk a little basketball today, whether people want to talk it or not. That was a pretty big week. We're not going
for both teams.
We're not going to just shrug that off like it was like nothing's happened. So
yeah, look. So I think Auburn should be one.
They're not going.
Alabama. I know they're going to keep Kansas there, but is Alabama going to be in the top 5 with their win over Houston?
They got a chance.
Has Auburn and Alabama ever been in the top 5 together in basketball?
I doubt it. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Going to finish up AHSA talk here. We're going to have Luke join us at 8. We're going to have Wade, Uncle T-Bone, join us as well for a little while before he has to dart out to get on another program. But we'll have them together with us, Randy, for a little bit. But let's finish this up in 1A football. Maplesville knocks off Elba. It's a crazy game there. Maplesville wins that game 28-21. Again, you and I don't have a dog in the fight, but again, the all-time leading rusher in state history and Alvin Henderson not going to be able to finish off an unbelievable season. They fall short by a touchdown.
Well, again, watching that one last night, 21-all. Elba's on a drive, taking it from inside the 5-yard line out to the 40 for Maplesville. Maplesville just hits a perfect tackle right on the football, knocks it out of Alvin Henderson's hand. He fumbles. Maplesville gets it back about 3 or 4 plays later. They're into the end zone to go up 28-21. And Brett, I haven't watched a lot of Elba, but Elba does not throw the football at all. I think they had 4 or 5 attempts all night last night. And they're in the old school Notre Dame box almost. I mean, it's not really, but Alvin Henderson, I guess he's the quarterback because they pretty much snap it to him. And he goes left, right, maybe up the middle. They do a little wing T, so they'll run what looks like a speed sweep now, but it's an old school T formation. Counter back to the right. They run maybe 4 or 5 plays. It was something to watch, and I understand why Alvin Henderson has the yards that he has, Brett, because he's going to touch the football every play, and they're going to lean on him. And if you can't stop him, then you don't. But Maplesville's got great athletes, and so it should be a really, really good matchup in state championship game against a very athletic and really good football community in Wadley.
Yeah, and talking about Wadley, Mark comes in and said Wadley's first 2 offensive possessions were a pair of 79-yard runs. So nobody's shocked by that. They jumped out to a pretty big lead. I tipped my hat to Hackleburg. I looked up and they were down, I think, 26 to 8 or 30-something to 8. And all of a sudden you look up and they've got 24 points on the board. And I thought, man, okay, Hackleburg, after getting pounced on to start this game, they're fighting back. And then I flipped back over there and it was another 30-point discrepancy. I'm like, well, that was short-lived. They had enough energy to try to fight back one time, but they weren't able to fight back the second time. Wadley put 69 on them. They beat them 69-31. That's the norm for Wadley this year. They destroyed teams, and again, last night was no exception.
Well, I complimented their play last year. I wanted to turn over and watch Jarquez Wilkes play and just see him out on the field, but I left calling Brett probably right after I got off of watching one of their ball games. I said, Brett, it's not just him. Now he's beautiful, and I see why he's a top 5 prospect in the state. And my gosh, I'd love to see him in orange and blue. But the rest of their team and the way that they play and how physical they play and how their lines of scrimmage get after you, they may not be 280, but they got 220, 230, and they got some bigger guys too. But I'm saying they've got some guys that just play football the right way in Wadley, Alabama. So tip your hat to them. Should be a great matchup against two really, really good high school football communities that love their programs. They really support those programs really well in both of those communities, Brett. And Class 1A is going to be one of the better football games, I suspect, that we'll see next week with those two teams matched up with each other.
Yeah, I think Maplesville's obviously a historic program, and they're getting back. And then, of course, Wadley, they're trying to get over that hump again to win that state title. And again, they're just a dominant team. They've been the Class of 1A all year, and they got to get through another tough team this coming up week to win a 1A championship. All right, obviously 7A was set last week, but going to pit Central Phoenix City and Thompson together again. Like we said, all this drama in the LBC, right, all year with the with 7A, and then it comes down to the same two teams, and they find their way to a state title game. There's some teams that have closed the gap for sure, but when the dust settled, it was the two teams that everybody would have probably put their money on to start the season in Phoenix City and Thompson.
Well, none of our college coaches are any better than the two high school head coaches they have at Phoenix City and Thompson. I mean, Pat Nix could be a college guy. There's no doubt. And Mark Freeman's always been one of our favorites, Brett. Can coach them up as well as anybody. And, it's not surprising to see them get better as the season goes on, which both of those teams did and both had to. They lost a few games early and in the middle part of the season. And then you take their two quarterbacks, Alford over at Phoenix City and Seaborn there at Thompson. They had some moments this year where it looked like they weren't quite up to the standard that they had last year. And then by the end of the year, both of them are playing as well as any two quarterbacks in the state of Alabama. And I think you'll see that in the championship game. But it goes back to leadership. And those two programs are led, again, I'm going to say it, Hugh Freeze, DeBoer, all of the above. None of them are any better coaches than these two head coaches we've got in the 7A classification here in the state of Alabama. I mean, those two guys can coach them up as well as anybody.
Yeah, no doubt. They've proven that for sure. Pat Nix's been a college guy. He's coached at Georgia Tech and Miami and those places. And then, he's been able to come back into the high school ranks and has done a really good job there at Pinson Valley and now at Phoenix City. Real quick comment before we go to our next break, going back to our talk about Auburn and Alabama basketball. Michael said, I think Bama and Auburn were in the top 5 together this year for 1 week until they lost to Purdue. Pretty sure they were 2 and we were 5. So there's a quick answer to that trivia question. Bubba said, told you you were sleeping on Moody. I don't know that we were sleeping on Moody. We pretty much said everybody kind of had ignored Moody for the most part in the northern side because all the talk had been around Catholic and Viger and Central Clay County. And, look, I went and covered Moody earlier in the year, and I knew they had a good football team. And, kind of wish they would have been able to play that Auburn game just to see that matchup that was on the schedule, but that hurricane canceled that game. But they've accomplished their goal. They've made it to a state championship game, and they'll get Montgomery Catholic, which is going to be a heck of a game. So we're looking forward to it. All right, so we got to get to our next break on TV and radio. When we come back, we'll dive straight into the college side. Stay tuned. More to come right after this. Yeah, when you move that like that, man, it roars like crazy.
Yeah, I've got to plug it in and plug it back out.
Okay.
Starting to come in on me.
Do what?
Boy, it's beautiful out there today. It's cold, but it's beautiful today.
It's pretty.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You got me now.
I never had
It's this plug in. Well, it's this plug in.
You crack me up, boy.
Why?
It's like changing the audio. Can you hear me now? You need to be on the T-Mobile commercial. Can you hear me now?
I'm not a technology person, and unfortunately, I've done a lot of broadcasts with you over the years where we couldn't be heard by anybody anywhere.
Well, it wasn't my fault.
With that, no, I'm not blaming it on you, but I'm blaming it on the whole situation. When we were, you got to tell everybody what you did.
I don't know what I did at Shades Valley.
Shades Valley.
I don't know what I did. I don't know how I did that. Hell, that was just a miracle from God. I mean, that's all that was. I don't know. I had this old, went in there. It was crap all in there. Looked like it was an old storage shed. The booth that we were in, it was dust and dirt everywhere. And there was one plug and there was this old telephone in the corner because they didn't have a signal or service thing that we could hook into. So I did some random deal and plugged that phone into the equipment we had and dialed that phone number and called the station. And somehow they picked up. And I said, well, don't ever hang this up because we may never get in touch again. So I don't know how it worked out. But anyway, it worked out. And we broadcasted one of the biggest A-whippings. And I wished I hadn't have figured it out after I got it figured out. So wasn't much to listen to after that, for sure.
Yeah, it's still one of my all-time favorite stories, Danny Horn in the locker room at halftime. I think we were getting beat by about 50. And it tells you how bad we were that somehow in the first 2 years, Danny Horn's your head coach. It's almost impossible. He was 2-18. You know how bad you've got to be for Danny Horn to be your coach, and you go 2-18 in 2 years. You've got nothing. And he went in the locker room in that game, and it was, I don't think, I won't say it, but remember the conversation with the quarterback that we had, Brett?
Oh, yeah. Po' boy.
Yeah.
I love Po' boy. Yeah. Coach Horn loved Po' boy, too. It just wasn't a really good night all the way around. All right, hold on. We got about 10 seconds. Luke's about as bad as you in technology. He's texting me, you going to send the link? I said, I sent it an hour ago. All right, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. I'm going to try to talk Luke through this thing here in just a second as we move forward and close out hour number one. We'll get Luke in. I'll connect the phone and, solder some wires together so we can bring him in here in just a second, Randy. But I'll turn it over to you. We're going to dive into the Iron Bowl, but last night, Georgia and Georgia Tech, good Lord, what a football game. And, Georgia just kind of looked despondent there in the first half, and were able to do what they've done all year and find a way to fight back in the end.
Yeah, it's quarterback play. You watch them and you go, why are they back to the fold? Well, it's definitely a deficiency on the offensive side of the ball, Brett. I mean, they really struggle, and they don't run the football. It's kind of back to Alabama, and I'm hopeful that Alabama stays the course and don't try to run the football with those two great running backs that they've got right now. But do you feel the same when you watch Georgia? Where did the physical play go? Where did the necessity to depend on your quarterback to make all of your plays offensively did we get to? And
right.
do you think that's where the game is? Because I don't. I still think you can line up and play physical and run the football and be multidimensional and throw the football down the field when you need to. I don't understand why these offensive teams feel like they've got to put all their bread in one basket, and if their quarterback's not playing well, then they lose. instead of lining up and playing physical. I bet I sound like a broken record with a lot of Alabama fans out there.
Yeah, I think it's fads, man, is the word
Yeah.
I come up with in football. You know, things come full circle like we're seeing in basketball with big interior play. I think the NBA kind of went away from that for a while because of the way things have changed and the way fouls are called now. So things kind of come full circle. I'll bring Luke in now. We got Luke. I got that the soldering wire connected and the satellite, and we got Luke in here now. Luke, good morning, man. Good to see you, buddy.
Good morning. How's it going, everybody?
It's good. We're talking about kind of the evolving of football and kind of how teams have gotten away from running the football and the physical play, and they just feel like I don't know if it's pressure from recruiting and styles of play and the way the NFL is, but even though you probably should be running the football, sometimes coaches have a hard time pulling away from that, and they just keep throwing the football. And Georgia's the game we're talking about. We're talking about Georgia Tech, and then just kind of your thoughts on that, Luke.
First of all, I think that running the football seems to be coming back in very slowly. I think they have gotten away from it for sure. But one thing I noticed last night, I kept saying this during the overtime, if I'm Georgia Tech, I'll run it for every 2-point conversion. I mean, why pass it? Yes, you've had some nice pass plays, but running the ball is where you've killed them. And that's what I would have done. And I probably would have done it a little less with Haynes King towards the end because he was gassed and he had been beaten up. I probably would have handed it to a running back, but their running backs are beat up too. So I understand it, and you got to give Georgia Tech a lot of credit for getting it that far. But I think that running the ball needs to come back in. I think in the end, that's the rules of football about playing defense and playing and running the ball are still going to be the rules that you need to follow long term. It's sort of like playing the stock market. I mean, you can play some of these risky stocks and you might hit a home run and you might make a bunch of money, but you got to know when to cash out. But in the end, if you just invest in things that are strong, in things that pay a little dividend, and they always stay steady Eddie, and they're good companies, then I think in the end you'll be happier for it long term rather than be on this roller coaster. But in the short term, passing the ball is fine and it can be a lot of fun. But I go back to just taking it on a Alabama situation. You look at the Tennessee game. I mean, I sure wish Alabama had run it a little bit more there. They decided they were going to pass it as much as they could, and they ended up losing the game. And I think if the team that runs the ball the best, and again, when you say that term, when you say it that way, people think, oh, you mean the team that runs for 300? I mean, just the team that outgains the other one in the game. Well, one team may only gain 100, and other team may only gain 50. But I'm saying if you run the ball well and get 250, 300 yards rushing, which is a pretty good many, you're going to probably win the game. I don't care what the other team has passing.
Randy.
Well, it just feels, and Luke, we'll go ahead and go into a little Iron Bowl talk. Glad to have you on, by the way. And Brett, glad that we have this new setup so we can bring so many people in and we can see Luke Robinson's beautiful face.
We're just glad to get Luke back to working again on Saturday.
That's right. We're glad to have him in here. But Alabama, I look at the stats for the running backs for Alabama, Brett. I mean, Luke, and it's head scratching. I mean, first off, Luke, where were the rankings? You're the recruitnik of the bunch. The two running backs for Alabama, how highly were they ranked coming out of high school?
Jam Miller was a 4, Justice was a 4/5, and Richard Young was a 4/5. Now, Richard Young isn't playing as much. I think one of the problems Alabama has is that, and I like Jalen Milroe, but I think he is not very proficient at the read option. I mean, I think that he keeps it a little bit too often. And also, Alabama just doesn't run a bunch of, hey, we're going to run the running back this play. That's just what we're going to do. And it's one of the things that worries me about today.
Yeah, I hope y'all stay the course with that, by the way. If we can leave this ball game with your two running backs getting somewhere between 15 and 20 carries, I'll call that a win. And that's been the consistent. I mean, you'll see Miller getting 8-10 carries. you'll see Justice Haynes getting 6 or 8 carries, and it's somewhere between 15 and 20, and only 70 to 80 yards rushing between the two of them. And, my point I'm making is I'm betting every one of us wanted your 2 backs. It's not like you're throwing a couple of guys out there that the rest of the country didn't want. And so, but it goes to a question mark, like, are Alabama fans happy with the identity that they have on the offensive side of the ball right now? Because I don't sense that it's a physical brand of football anymore. And
no, we're not happy. I mean, this one's not happy.
Well,
I bet you're the norm, though, Luke.
Let me stop y'all. We got to get in the break here for TV and radio. When we come back, it'll be the top of the hour, and we'll dive more into that. So hold that thought right there, guys. Stay tuned. Hour number 2 of the Saturday Sports Countdown coming your way right after this.
Why is it, Luke? Hey, Wade.
Good morning.
Is it cold in your house, Wade?
I'm freezing.
If we get 8 more people in here, we'll be the Brady Bunch.
We're working on it.
I just woke up, guys. Shocker.
Yeah. Hey, Luke's calling somebody else to join in. Good Lord have mercy. You going today, Luke?
No, shit.
You're not.
He's gonna be... Hey, what's up?
Hey, no way I'm going. Yeah, I was going to say, put your mic on mute if you're on the phone. I don't want to hear it. Neither does the rest of the world.
He's calling Lee Sterling, Paramount Sports, to get the latest picks.
All right, good chance, by the way.
We got some comments here. John said, well, first of all, Bubba said, you're right. Feels like the 0-2 game in Tuscaloosa, Trey Smith game. Ronnie and Cadillac were out. Cooper Wallace played fullback. As far as my favorite Iron Bowl, 89, the first time ever, meant more to my generation than any game. That was obviously historic. My son was down there in the game room looking at a bunch of junk that I have down there. I got all kind of stuff. And I've got a couple of those paper mache shakers from the 89 game. Like my wife says, I keep everything. And I have a couple of those paper mache. He said, what? He said, how old are these shakers? I said, those are from the 89 game. I said, they weren't made out of plastic, Braden. I said, they're paper mache. I said, they dissolved back in the day, and he said, good Lord. He said, if I touch it, he said, I'm afraid if I touch it, it's just going to dissolve. So, yeah, 89, some old archives there, man. John said, I only have limited information, but do y'all know anything about a high school quarterback, number 10, I believe? His last name is Johnson. Very good. Curious if he's a senior and where he may be going.
Got him, but I mean, do we know where he's from? All I have, y'all, is a dude named Smith, and we think he's between the ages of 6 and 102. Can y'all find him?
He's talking about the Moody kid, though, Clint Johnston. Yeah,
Oh.
he's what is he a junior?
He's 6'5". He's from Mountain Brook. He's a
Very
senior.
good.
He's a senior. He's committed
senior.
to Georgia Southern.
Okay, very good player.
Yeah, he is. So, all right, guys, we're coming back here, and let's see what my man Russ said here in just a second. That was John said, that's him. Hey, we figured it out. Give us a last name and a number. We'll get you a guy for you.
Here, I got a needle I need y'all to find, and I put it somewhere in Alabama.
All right, 5 seconds. Here we go. Can't say we can't come through for you here, buddy. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown. We do kind of like the Brady Bunch a little bit. I have to laugh. Luke said, maybe we can call a few more people and get on here with us. But, hey, we're going to welcome in Uncle T-Bone here this morning with us. I've got Luke Robinson, got Randy, and myself. We went through high school in the first hour. We're going to dive into this Iron Bowl coming up here in a few hours. Glad that you have joined us out there, wherever it is that you're tuning us in. If you're looking for a missing person, we can find them. All we need is a number and half a name, and we'll figure out who it is. But anyway, appreciate all your comments. Guys, let's just start with this game, I think, and I'll go around the room, and try to keep it in order. Randy, I'll start with you first. I think this game 5 weeks ago, I would have said, unequivocally, Alabama's got this thing locked up, but some things have kind of shifted and kind of given Auburn some hope the way they're playing football. And so, I'm expecting a little bit closer game than I would have 5 weeks ago.
Well, of course. I mean, Alabama scores 3 points last Saturday. I mean, how much hope do you need? They've got question marks on the offensive side of the ball, and they've got to cure those L's. And I told Luke Wade, and I'll kind of kick it down to you, that's my X factor. Does Alabama have a willingness to run the football? And if they don't, I'm hoping Auburn can check out the blueprint that others have drawn up on how to slow Jalen Milroe down. And if that's the case, Alabama hasn't really shown so far this year that they're willing to lean on those 2 great running backs that they've got. And so that's the biggest part of this ball game. Auburn's got a top 20 defense. DJ Durkin's doing a great job there. And Auburn needs it to be a low-scoring game. I'll say that. I don't – there's no part of me that thinks Auburn's going to go over there and score 24-plus points. I think Auburn needs to win this game 21-17, something like that would be a really good one. There's a good 86 score for you. But Wade, that's the X factor for me. I'll kick down to you, and then we'll let Luke go on a rant because he's got to take on 3 Auburn fans this morning.
I mean, y'all gonna make the Alabama guy go last?
I was gonna let him go next, but Randy took control, so I'll let you go first.
Go with Luke. Finally, I love listening to Luke on the Max Roundtable with Doug Amos every Wednesday. Get some fantastic information from the other side of the state. So thank you, Luke, with your Locked On Bama broadcast. And I'm with you. I think it's a race to 24. Auburn can't win a game upwards, I don't think, unless it gets into some kind of crazy overtime game, which I don't think they'd win on the road anyway, like they did against Texas A&M last week. The running attack, I would be very shocked if Alabama rolls out the same game plan that it did for LSU, for Oklahoma, and then for Auburn with a heavy dose of set runs for Jalen Milroe as your running attack. I think they got to go to the tailbacks more and pound on Auburn, which Auburn has to do to Alabama, and then open up the big shots down the field with Jalen Milroe, who I still say throws the prettiest deep ball in college football. So if they roll out with the same stuff that they have the last couple of weeks, there is a recipe now that Brent Venables showed. Can Auburn execute it? I think Oklahoma's defensive line is stronger than Auburn's, but Auburn's been playing over its skis a little bit at linebacker, and that's going to be an interesting matchup to me. It's not just the freshman who popped off this week, but the other guys as well have played very solid, including the transfer, the Mousy kid. He's been very underrated this season for Auburn, so watch him today. He's a solid football player.
Go, Luke.
First of all, John Dent faxed me a picture of who we're missing. If y'all could find this guy for me.
That guy plays at Demopolis High.
He's number 10 now, if that helps.
That's him. That's the quarterback, I think. Maybe Marbury.
So that's a good look at him.
Oh, my gosh.
You can't miss that face.
That's who you were looking for the whole time. You knew it.
I found him on South Park, I think. Anyway, look, I don't know what kind of game plan Alabama's going to have today. I don't think it's going to be, everybody's talking about what kind of tone needs to be set. I don't even know what to expect for this game anymore. That should be the norm. We don't know what to expect in this game anytime ever. You never know what you're going to get with the Iron Bowl, and you don't know what kind of team is going to show up. I don't know what kind of mental state either one of these squads is in. I mean, obviously I can speak to Alabama and say I feel like I'm worried about the last game. I mean, obviously that has me very concerned the way that they hadn't played like that in 17 years, and that poorly. The identity, I don't really even know what to say Alabama's identity is anymore. But on the other side, Auburn's coming off the biggest win they've had in 4 or 5 years. And so how do they handle that with a bunch of youngsters? And then, there's part of me that says, boy, I know it used to be in the Iron Bowl when you'd say some things like DeMarcus Riddick or Cam Coleman or Eugene Asante or any of those guys have said, that's a death nail. But
Yeah.
now I don't know. I did a crossover Locked On special with Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn, and I said maybe it's a generational thing because I think that's just the way kids talk now. I mean, Zach is much younger than I am. He's roughly 30, and I said, yeah, we didn't. I mean, nobody talked like that. We might amongst our own fans, but and the fans may have done it, but the players didn't do that. And there's part of me that understands it and sort of goes, hey, what's the harm? Because honestly, if Auburn wins the game, if Alabama wins the game, I think that eventually Alabama fans will be like, sort of forget what DeMarcus Riddick said because they'll be worried about the playoffs and trying to worry about what the future and everything else. But if Auburn wins, DeMarcus Riddick's a prophet forever. So, I mean, I guess there's no harm, no foul. But and at the same time, there's the old side of me is like, I don't like that from either. I would say the same thing if an Alabama guy said it. I'd say, I just don't like that. Just don't do that. Just go out there and do it. You don't need to say things like that. And part of me is also like, if both of these teams have underachieved this year, so if you're smack talking, I think it's a little late. You should have smacked instead of doing the talking earlier, because both of these teams have underachieved from what they were expected to do earlier this season. So I'm sort of like, hey, don't come at the last game of the season and say, I'm the best player on the field when where were you 4 games ago?
Well, DeMarcus Riddick wasn't playing much in the early part of the year, and his playing time's increased. But, Luke, I don't know if you heard me on Gary Harris's show yesterday, but he asked me the same exact question, and I gave almost the identical answer. I said, I think it's just the generation. I don't think anybody pays attention. I think both, kids talk that kind of talk now, and it's not the way we grew up. And when you said something, everybody just went into a shell and went, oh, I can't believe he said that. Now they're going to kill us and stuff. I think that's just the banter back and forth with social media, and they know each other. They grew up with each other. They were recruited with each other. So I think that's just friendly fire. I really do. I just think that's the way it is. But I'm kind of with you. I'd just rather not talk. I'd rather just do. But that's our generation here on the Brady Bunch podcast we got going on. That's our mentality.
I do really believe, I think Auburn's over-under was like 7-7, maybe 6.5 or something. Alabama's was, I know what Alabama's was. It was 9.5. So neither one of them can get to what both of them are going to be under. I mean, I just look at it like, and I didn't like what Jalen Milroe had to retort either. Like, I don't know him. Well, you should know. If you don't know him, that's a problem. You're going to be playing against him. You don't have to know him personally, but you can at least say, hey, I saw him on film. He's a pretty good player. He's pretty fast. He's a youngster, but he's good. I would have understood that. Why come back at some kind of talk with more talk? You're the senior. You should know better. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Again, Zach is sort of like, hey, all my people love it. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I guess as an older guy, I'm sort of out of
I don't love it.
I'm not a fan.
I mean, I never in my life when I bump my gums, has it ever come back to haunt me. I mean, we're all the same age. When we were playing ball, going to games on the bus, we weren't even allowed to talk.
Yeah.
You had to win the game to be able to talk on the ride home. I mean, but you know what? You're right. Like these kids, you put 2 or 3 of them combined age now, and I'm older than them. Do you think they care what I have to say? We're the old.
It's also why I was.
So
it's also why I was cheering for Mike Tyson so hard. Shut one of these youngsters up, and but
I looked on the message boards yesterday on the On3 ones, both Auburn and Alabama, and some of the other ones, and there wasn't one person talking about this or this morning.
Yeah.
Back 20 years ago, people would still just be foaming at the mouth about it. So I'm with you guys. I mean, all these guys know each other. They don't care what anybody from the old school has to say.
No.
And that's just how it is. I think the story of it, though, Luke, I said this yesterday, is both of these coaches, and you just touched on it, are probably relieved that the media picked this up early in the week, because the story of this game are the 2 coaches and them underachieving this year. And whoever loses this game is going into next season in boiling hot water, I think.
Hey, Wade, let's y'all hold your thoughts. We got to get to break. We come back, we'll keep this rolling. Stay tuned, everybody. More Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Hey, Brett, for you and Randy, y'all
Yeah.
should get like one of these things. You know,
Right.
that just sort of.
We do. We do.
Okay.
Mine just there. I mean, it
Okay.
just when I
You
had to
mean
back
that light?
up.
That light, Luke.
Right back.
Yeah.
What,
Because
what do you have?
I've got like, that's just one of the things they told me was at first I was just in here in the office, and when you cut these two off, I cut that off.
Oh yeah, right.
If I cut this off, all of a sudden it looks a lot different. But if you
Yep.
do it like this, and you do it like
I've got one of
that,
these ring lights. It may be that we've got the window in the background's not the right thing to do.
Well, your window, you're getting a big shadow because you
Yeah,
got a
yeah,
lot of bright light behind you.
Yeah.
it's almost like you're a secret witness that doesn't want his identity exposed on 60 Minutes. You can be talking like this. Well, I think that Jan Dent wanted me to find number 10.
Hey, he was who John was looking for.
Hey,
Here he is.
the problem with this, Luke, is as soon as he said 10, I knew which guy he was talking about. That's how much useless knowledge I have in high school football right now, making 438 posts a week on Athletes a Week. I knew exactly who he was talking about.
Whoa, they beat the hell out of Leeds. I didn't expect
Yes,
that.
they did.
They did. They crushed them. Big time. That should be a pretty good game.
Yeah. I mean, they're a bunch of good games for the championships for sure.
A dang Wadley boy. Maplesville better strap it up. That's all I can tell you.
But how does Maplesville do it it just seems like every year, again, I know they're not, but it seems like every year Maplesville's just there. I mean, they just.
That is the loudest roar.
What is
It
that?
should be fine now. Is it out now?
It's finally going down.
Yeah.
What is that?
Somebody hammering in the background.
It's this USB. It's this
Yeah,
USB cord that I'm.
You got Ginger doing some honeydews.
Yeah, well, she's doing them over here.
Yeah. Are any of y'all going?
John said, I'm on the show. I'm not on the show, but I'm ever present. There's no doubt, John. Absolutely.
Are any of y'all going?
No.
No.
It's so cold. Like I had a friend of mine, Auburn friend of mine up the street. He said, yeah, I got 2 tickets and I'm going to go and then take my son. He went and played golf with his father-in-law yesterday, played 9 holes, came back and said, I ain't going to the game. I ain't going outside. I ain't going to my car. He said, it was cold yesterday and it's going to be freezing today.
Well, and it didn't make it any better that we haven't had any cold weather at all. So when you finally get some, as hot as it's been, it's like,
I might just disintegrate into straight ash if I were to go out there right now. I'm already just ashing up as bad as I can. I'm going to need to go get some of that Old Spice.
all right, here we go. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Get your comments rolling in. John's entertained us here for a while. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts of it. Randy, I'll start with you. What does Auburn have to do to win this football game here today? And then we'll get down to Luke eventually on the Alabama side. But what's Auburn got to do to win the game today?
Run first, pass second. For whatever reason, first part of the season, we wanted to pass first to set up the run. This second half of the season, outside of that Vandy game, we went more Jarquez and then tried to hit the big ball down the field. And Cam Coleman's been in the mix the last couple of games because of it. It may take a game like Peyton Thorne had last year against Alabama where he runs the football 12 to 14 times. I think that would be a good game plan. So, yeah, that's where I'll start with it. Does Auburn lean more on the run than they do the pass? And can we be physical enough on the lines of scrimmage to be able to do that? We did it last year at home. Can we do it in Tuscaloosa? Heck if I know. We haven't been over there and won in 14 years. So, got to get off the snide at some point in time. And I'm hopeful that today, with Alabama's woes offensively, we can find a way to put enough points up on the board to win a close one there. So that's where I'll start, kicking it down to Wade. Running the football is key to me.
Special teams, anytime Auburn has an opportunity to kick a field goal, they got to knock it back and take the 3 points to maintain momentum. Those type of situations in Iron Bowls, missed field goals or muff snaps on field goals can be super detrimental to your chances of winning. And for crying out loud, field your punts. Muff punts have killed Auburn in this game over the last few years, basically eliminating victory when it was right there for the taking. And you cannot give Alabama any kind of short fields in those situations. It's hard to say don't turn the ball over. I mean, I think Auburn can get away with a turnover, maybe even 2. But if they're on special teams, they're not going to get away with it. If you give Alabama a short field immediately, especially if it's near midfield, Milrose going deep to the end zone, to the middle of the end zone, and normally is going to connect there. So I think that's the key for Auburn, is handling its business. I think it's going to be a war and a slugfest either way offensively. Just limit turnovers, convert in special teams, and field all your punts cleanly, and you'll have a shot at winning this football game.
Yeah, I think that in the end, if you're Alabama, I know he's played a lot better, but I think you got to make Peyton Thorne beat you. First of all, I guess I would say before that is go out there and assert physical dominance if possible. I'm not even sure it's possible, frankly, but that's what you have to try and do. And secondly, make Peyton Thorne beat you. If he beats you deep, then he beats you, but don't let him beat you with his feet. And trying to contain Jarquez Hunter as best you can, keep him under, say, 80 yards if possible. That's what you want to do. And again, always turnovers are a big issue. Special teams will be interesting because both, Alabama's kicker, I think, is good. Graham Nicholson's a good kicker. He won the Lou Groza last year. I didn't think he should have. I thought Will Reichert clearly should have. He's the all-time leading. This was weird with the NCAA and, I think getting in the Hall of Fame. I'm not 100% if Will Reichert was first-team All-American on any service. So if he wasn't and he didn't win the Lou Groza, I'm not sure he's eligible for the NCAA Hall of Fame, and he's the leading scorer in NCAA history, which is just a weird, stupid rule they have. You have to be a first team anyway. But Graham Nicholson won it last year, and he's been okay this year, but not great. And obviously, Auburn's got a dude that's nobody heard of about 3 weeks ago, and now he's out there being the man. So that could be interesting. But I think Wade brought up an interesting point I hadn't even considered. Muffed punts are Auburn's field goals for Alabama lately. Where field goals were our bugaboo forever, and now muffed punts is what it is for Auburn in this Iron Bowl.
Special teams should scare both sides to an extent, but you're right. I mean, forever it was, if you ever had Alabama in a key situation to kick a field goal, you really, really felt good about yourself. Well, right now, just fielding a punt, Randy, we've seen Malcolm Simmons take over punt return duties here in the last few weeks, and he's done a pretty good job.
He has, and you and I have had the good fortune of watching him do that for 3 or 4 years, and it's a lot of pressure back there, and I'm hopeful that he comes through with it, and I think he'll have a lot of opportunities, but I don't think it's necessarily those that we're talking about. Auburn's punting game was abysmal last Saturday. I can't remember the last time as an Auburn fan that I watched us punt the football the way that we did last Saturday. I don't know what's going on with Oscar Chapman. It's mental. I mean, he had a drop where the ball hit the ground. I mean, he kicked a drop kick for a punt last week, and luckily he hit it and got it out to midfield. But I can't remember the last time that he turned one over and actually had a good kick. And if that's the case today, and we don't win the field position battle, because look, I'm going to be wrong. It'll end up being 41-38 the moment I say this. But, I really think that it's the first 1 to 20 points may win this game. And Auburn at least hopes that that's the case. But we got to win this field position battle, and a lot of that leans on how good your punting game is.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think that's huge. Guys, we're going to go ahead and get to our next break. We come back, we'll have about a half an hour left here on Iron Bowl Saturday to get everybody's comments. John wants you to hold your selfie up, Luke. He's calling that a selfie. So
it ain't a selfie. It's an artist. What do you call it? Police artist sketch.
It's a rendering. Yeah,
it's a police artist sketch of what the guy that's missing, and hopefully y'all can find him. Got any chance?
He's not missing anymore. So
That's Charlie Brown, man.
It is Charlie Brown. It's very close.
Found him.
You found him.
Can't believe
All right. We're going to go find a commercial break. Stay tuned. More to come right after this.
I should have known. I should have known better. But when I was talking, I saw Luke taking notes. I was like, man, he doesn't like something I'm saying. He's writing down some notes for himself.
Instead, he was drawing a smiley face.
He's about to come back at me with something so smart, and instead he's drawing a rendering of a lost person.
That doesn't exist.
Just like that was just like the Mobile sketch, right? The
That's what I was
leprechaun.
going for.
I know. I picked up on it immediately. Actually, I thought you had printed that off and just had a copy over there to the side that you were just because isn't that your background picture? Isn't that your background picture on Twitter? It is.
Yeah, he's got that ready in queue now forever.
Oh, yeah. It'll never go. He just tore it up though.
I did.
He tore it up. He's got to draw it again.
Good news is, I think he can recreate it.
Yeah. I hope I can put that one together.
Hey, Luke. Hey, Brett. Let Luke talk about injuries.
Jesus.
Injuries.
What was that? Was that loud or something?
No. I don't get calls for a week and a half. I've gotten 4 calls since I've been on this line. Hang on.
Hey, I want to ask about kind of state of mind going into the game too, because what's it been like practice wise up there at Alabama? Because quite frankly, at Auburn, I'm not even sure they hardly even practiced.
Okay.
I think Auburn's just going in loose, like whatever.
So Brett, lead those two in. I've given enough takes this week for this Iron Bowl to last the next 30 minutes. So I'll sit over here and smile.
I mean, I don't know if
at
y'all
Wade
saw,
and Luke.
if
Just
y'all
put
saw
up that
Freeze's
smiley
comment.
face picture in your frame, and then we'll just keep going around the room.
I don't know if y'all saw those comments from Freeze Monday at Tiger Talk, but I know they don't practice on Monday. On Tuesday and Wednesday, they had like the position groups had adopted families and were taking them Thanksgiving. I know they ain't gonna hardly practice on Thursday, and Friday they're traveling. So I mean, I guess they're just gonna go in and just wing it.
That was Austin. He said he was at Amsterdam Cafe last night, and he said some Auburn family was beside him, and he said he's just listening to him talk. I guess he's just by himself, and he said the old man said, "Well, says it right here on the internet. Alabama's getting Archie Manning and Dabo Swinney. He's going to come in and coach him next year. So I guess they got that going." And the wife said, "That can't be." And he said, "It's on the internet right here." And she was like, "Oh, he spelled it."
Yeah.
It's your phone's telling it to you.
How did Austin not say anything?
That's what he said. Austin said, "What is wrong with you?"
Don't you know the internet's the gospel?
Yeah.
Luke, injury report. How many are out? 2 or more?
Well, Deontay Lawson's out.
Ooh.
Like nobody else that's new though that I know.
Okay.
So
When did
Deontay
Robinson
Lawson got hurt last week?
When did Quandarius Robinson get hurt?
That was
2 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, maybe. Yeah, that was the LSU game.
We got 20 seconds, guys.
Tee them up, Brett. You can stay away from me here.
We're gonna do this one time. Randy's gonna be in the back mowing.
Yeah.
You're gonna go through him, and he's gonna have to hurry back in.
Happily.
All right, here we go. 5 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. We got a missing person alert. We figured that out this morning with John. And John said that was your AI, Luke, by the way, on here. So that's AI Luke, that picture. But
that'd be about as much as my AI could kick out. I can tell you that right now.
Hey, some guys.
Artist idiot is what
we're going to go down to you, Luke, first, and then you, Wade, some things that concern you on both sides. Here, Luke, I'll start with you.
Things that concern me?
Yeah.
The game. I am not feeling good. I hadn't felt good about this. I mean, like, this is, there have been times I remember, I think I was going to the 2013 game. I think I just went down and tailgated and came back. And I mean, I remember calling into Saturday Sports Countdown then. That's how long we've been on air. And I said, boy, it's just something that doesn't feel right. And obviously that was sort of historic. And this week, though, but the week leading up to that, I felt okay. This week, I just don't even know what to feel anymore because it's been so long since Alabama's had something like what happened last Saturday happen. And I know that now that's okay. That just may be where we are. That more games are going to be dogfights than ever before, and I need to get used to it. But it's been 15 good years of not having to worry about it at all. Like we just go in there and just wax Oklahoma and come on to the house. And we didn't. We just looked like we were disheveled. We were out of sorts. We had a very lackadaisical attitude, it seemed like. And so I don't know what in the world to think about today. There are a lot of things that concern me. I mean, Auburn's got some good players. I mean, Jarquez Hunter's a really good player. Cam Coleman's a very good player. So I feel like Auburn's got enough to beat us because I've seen lesser teams beat us. I know Oklahoma beat Auburn too, but I would still argue that Auburn's probably better than Oklahoma. I mean, regardless of what the score said. So, yeah, I think this game is going to be an absolute dogfight. I just don't know what the mental state of this team is. Are they understanding that, hey, look, it is a long shot. It is certainly not set in stone that if you win this game, you go to the playoffs. But there is an opportunity. And if it doesn't mean something to you, look, in the end, it should mean something to them. But I saw a Georgia team last night go out there and, fiddle around for a while and against a Georgia Tech team that is far inferior to me. But Georgia Tech is playing to reestablish themselves, and Georgia's just so out there like, yeah, y'all are Georgia Tech. We don't even worry about y'all. And I think part of that is a result of some NIL stuff. I think what you're going to see is some teams be a little hungrier, and then it's going to be how do you deal with once the players make all this and they don't feel like they have to listen to you anymore. How do you motivate them anymore? That's what I feel like the biggest problem is going to be for some programs that get good. I mean, Auburn may have to deal with that in 2 years versus right now, because right now they're hungry. But in a year and a half, or maybe even next year, when some of their players are making a lot more money, have a lot more opportunities, are they going to be the ones in this boat where you're struggling to motivate them because they got plenty of money, they got plenty of status, they got all the popularity? What do they need you for? Do you understand where I'm going here?
Yeah. No
Well,
doubt.
I think Auburn fans are hoping that the scenario that you saw last night over in Athens is one that can play out to an extent today in Tuscaloosa, where one team is the better football program and has been for quite some time, and the other team is the hungry upstart trying to reestablish itself as a player, not just in the conference, but on a national level. It's been so long since Auburn's been relevant, and they've been in the doldrums of college football. I mean, that's just a fact. It's painful to say, and Alabama's been tremendously dominant. And then all of a sudden, there's an opportunity where the program that's had the better run might be slipping for just whatever reason, or may not be motivated to really go out there and handle its business. And you've got some momentum, and you've got to seize it, and you've got to make a statement. Georgia Tech, I love their head coach. Brent Key can coach, and he's relentless. And they're going to, Georgia's a better program, but that's an underrated squad that's been pretty salty all season. And I think that Auburn's on that same level with them right now. The Tigers should be a 7-win team, but Alabama's on the same level of Georgia. They should be about a 10-win team going into this game. And for whatever reason, both of those things have not played out. I look for motivation and who is more motivated going into the Iron Bowl, who's got the most pressure on them, who's prepared best, but who's going to come in and play loose and hot. I don't think that Auburn has done a whole lot of grinding over this game this week from everything I've gathered and listening to Hugh Freeze's comments in his press conference and at Tiger Talk. It just seems like to me that they're going to do their Thanksgiving bit. They're going to get up to Tuscaloosa, and they're just going to try and ball and see what happens. What's it like? What's it been like this week over in Tuscaloosa, Luke? Because quite frankly, I haven't really been able to keep up or read a lot of what's going on over there post Oklahoma. And is this a situation where Kalen DeBoer may overgrind going into this game because he knows he needs it so bad?
I haven't gotten that sense at all. I think the more sense I've gotten is still the only moderate practice report I've got from anybody that's not like a message board person was practice wasn't great. Now, is that getting second-handed to me? I don't know. And that was a few days ago, so maybe some things have changed. But I would suspect that after losing 24-3 to a not so good Oklahoma team, practice shouldn't be great. And he didn't really elaborate, but I just feel like I'm very concerned about this. Again, my other friends say usually in this game the better team finds a way to win, and I think that is true. While we always talk about the weird endings, in the end the better team does seem to find a way to win for the most part. 84 probably being one of the big ones that stands out to me. I mean, that Alabama team had no business being on the same field as Auburn that year. But otherwise, I think even like 13, Alabama's team was really good, but you could certainly make a case Auburn's team was better. You could certainly make that case. But what I'm worried about here is I just don't know I don't know enough to know to even what to be worried about. I think we'll know a lot after the first drive or two, like what kind of Jalen Milroe are we going to get? I think John Dent brought up a great point. We've talked about it all week. Some other Alabama fans, and I think that first hit where Milroe made the wrong cut and went in the wrong hole and got laid out by the Oklahoma linebacker. If he had cut to the right, I think there's a lot of green grass. But he got hit, and I think those kind of things can be big momentum builders and confidence builders for a team that's not as good as the other team. And conversely, I think if you're the team that's favored, when you see a hit like that, you're like, oh, these guys are better than we thought. And all of a sudden, it's not necessarily David beating Goliath, but something closer to that. And I feel like if Auburn comes out and sets a tone early, I don't know that Alabama's going to be able to come back.
Luke, is quick follow-up question on that.
Hey, real quick, Wade. Let's get to break.
Milroe 100%.
Hey, Wade, we got to get to break. I was going to stop you there. I was going to stop after Luke. Come back. We'll pick up with that comment and a couple more key things that we want to talk about here to close out the show. Stay tuned. More of the Saturday Sports Countdown right after this. All right, Jason Caldwell was on yesterday with us. Luke, he said he doesn't like Auburn's matchup at all with Alabama in this game because he didn't think – he says the problem is the pass rush up front. He said Auburn can't get pass rushed with just four guys. They have to blitz, which helps out Jalen Milroe and kind of puts one-on-one situations. So he didn't feel real good about it at all. So I think everybody's just kind of all over the map. I really do. Do want to talk about the coaches in this game, the perspective. When we come back, we'll go around the room. Randy, I'll start with you on that. The difference, Kalen DeBoer's first Iron Bowl, Hugh Freeze's second one, but he's played in an Alabama game before in Ole Miss and knows what it feels like to win a game like that. But coming from both perspectives, I think it's a massive game for different reasons.
Yeah. Was that to Randy or to me?
I'm going to start with him when we come back, but anybody can elaborate now because we're
Luke, is Jalen Milroe 100% or is he a little banged up?
I mean, I don't think he's banged up now. I think he was banged up around the Tennessee time. I mean, I think it was pretty clear now. Everybody kept saying he wasn't. And, again, I called everybody I could call to try and find out, and they all said, hey, they tell us he's not. And I'm like, well, it's sort of like, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? You know what I mean? And I was like, my eyes told me, well, he doesn't just walk like that all the time.
Well, it's the same with Peyton Thorne. I mean, he had shoulder problems for midway through the season and I still don't think he's 100%.
He's had shoulder problems since he stepped on campus.
I think he has too. I really do.
The problem is he's got two of them. Neither one of them are real good.
Yeah, he took some shots in a couple of those in that Cal game.
Yeah, he took a shot. All right, he made some Auburn fans take some shots.
I took some shots afterwards as well.
It wasn't enough to kill the pain for sure.
I still love that on YouTube the most views on any of the lives came after the Vanderbilt game, well over 1,000 views. and you had the blowtorch. You had Andy on the damn tram, and I was about half hammered, just grinning, trying not to say anything I shouldn't say because I'd been up at Baumhauer's watching.
Hey,
the game.
I loved the facial expressions of people behind Andy on the train.
Yeah, they're like,
They're
what the world's going
like,
on?
what is this going on right here? We got about 15 seconds, guys.
Speaking of Vandy, after the Vandy game, and I went on that rant about DeBoer's shirt, that got more than almost 900,000 views on TikTok. I didn't even have a TikTok.
Didn't even have a TikTok, and he got 9.
I don't even have a TikTok, but they put it on TikTok under them.
Here we go. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Got a couple segments left on the show this morning. Been great so far. Let's dive right back in. I think one of the storylines in this game is the two coaches. And Wade said this, Randy, all week, that they better be glad that that some other distractions like smack talk and some of those things have taken the spotlight off of them. But it really is about these two guys. I mean, Hugh Freeze lost that game last year in ridiculous fashion. So he's got to come back from that, and he struggled this year. This team hadn't been very good. So a lot of eyes on him in this second Iron Bowl. And Kalen DeBoer is about to get an initiation, just like anybody that's never coached in this game. You can hear about it, you can read about it, but until you are on the sideline coaching in it, you don't know. And so there's a little angst amongst Alabama fans right now with him. So this one's going to be interesting to watch these two perspectives today.
Well, he's very lucky he's at home. So he's got the fan support behind him here in this ball game, and I think that will help, of course. But back to those two coaches, I think the identity issues for both programs are where I keep coming back to. I don't know who Alabama is on the offensive side of the ball outside of Jalen Milroe go out there and make us play. And I haven't known what the identity for Auburn football on the offensive side's been for 12 to 14 years. Really, the last time I felt like we went into a season where I knew what we wanted to do and how we were set up 2014. After that 13 season with Nick Marshall coming back, I knew what we were doing. But since then, it's been all over the map. And unfortunately, if you're an Alabama fan, that's what I feel about you right now. And here's a key to the ball game today. As we talked about Alabama high school football in the first hour of the program, Brett, think about how many high school guys that we all covered last year, Luke and Brett, that are going to play key roles in the game in their first year this year. Ryan Williams and Cam Coleman, both the receivers. Easily whoever wins this football game could be which one of those two guys make the most big plays. Ryan Williams has done it all year, and Cam Coleman's really stepped up the last couple of weeks. And then the other ones that we're talking about is DeMarcus Riddick and his comments and how big of a key he's going to be defensively, spying Jalen Milroe and not allowing him to get off running the football today. And, it's kind of funny to think that not very long ago we were broadcasting games for them, and now the biggest game on this Saturday at 2:30 is going to have some young guys that a lot are expected out of them, and that's something I'm going in today watching. I'm not surprised at all. We know what a great talent Ryan Williams was. I told you, and I've said it over and over again, I think he's the best high school football player in this state that these two eyes have seen or had the privilege of broadcasting. But Cam Coleman's not far from him, and those two guys already expected a lot out of him.
Luke?
Yeah, I think, Cam's already been in Tuscaloosa and for the state championship last year and had a big game. So he's certainly been there in that venue before. And, now they're not really freshmen anymore.
That's
I
right.
think that by this time of the year, you're not a freshman anymore. It's different. And so, yeah, it's going to be fun to see guys like that we have called, Malcolm Simmons being one of them, that you guys have called a gazillion times. He may play a pivotal role. Who knows? So it's going to be – it's always one of those games. It is a little bit more special when home state guys do something big for the Iron Bowl. I think that is true.
Wade?
Well, you talk about the two coaches. That's been my theme all week. I think I've had some people try and bait me into conversations on other shows about the smack talk and try and make a bigger deal of it than it is. Like I said, I mean, it's just almost a laughable conversation. That's yesterday's wine, that story. The story all week is these two coaches, both of them desperately need a win here today, in my opinion, heading into next year. But I'll say this. I think unless Auburn just gets blown off the field in Bryant-Denny today, Auburn fans really have no choice. They'll have to grit and bear it again for about the 5th, 6th straight year of complete mediocrity at best, and hope for next year, because Auburn's really in no position to raise Cain about its coach right now, financially especially. But if DeBoer loses this game today, and this is going back to the old, this is what Andy Graham's always said when we were coming up. You dreaded losing it, and winning this game was more of just a relief. And that's what will happen today if Kalen DeBoer loses. Now, I can't speak for all Alabama fans. I follow the Tide pretty closely, and I'm married into an Alabama family. And I'm very thankful for that, too, by the way, here on Iron Bowl Saturday. We're all great citizens of this state, and it's a wonderful place and wonderful game. But I'm telling you, if he loses this game, that what you heard legend on Feinbaum is going to be times 100. And I'm not saying the wheels will come off in Tuscaloosa, because I'll never underestimate Alabama, ever. I've made that mistake before, but it's going to get hot for them, and that's a fact.
Luke, let me say this about that. The amount of pressure on Kalen DeBoer if he were to lose this game. I mean, this was what Alabama fans, I think you said for years on our shows, we don't know what we got really. Once he's gone, we're going to find out. And Alabama hasn't sniffed 3 losses, much less 4, and Lord knows when. And if he comes in year 1 with a pretty doggone good football team and loses 4 football games and gets eliminated from a 12-team playoff when Alabama's been used to making it when there's only 4 teams, just your thoughts on that, the mentality of the program.
Yeah, I think it's a problem. I think in the end, the immediate reaction will be just like what Wade said. I think the longer-term reaction will be like, all right, let's see what happens with the guys that he brings in, his guys. Now, people always say Saban's guys are the best guys, and I think that's true. I mean, Saban was the best recruiter of all time, probably. But
No question.
At the same time, I think Saban saw more of the writing on the wall than we give him credit for. I think he looked around and, the story is very famous about his having the exit meeting with everybody after the Michigan game, and everybody was talking about, what can I get paid next year, or where can I transfer? It wasn't anything like, how do we come back and win a title next year? And I think he realized even the bigger picture of that is like, well, this is going to affect everything. And instead of just, the national championship, this is going to affect the little games. Because if I can't get you to buy in, hey, Oklahoma's going to try and slap you in the face, Auburn's going to try and slap you in the face, then I'm not going to be able to win these games anymore. And I think Saban got out when the getting was good, and I don't blame him at all. I understand it totally. He had done enough. But there is going to be part of me that says, okay, let's wait and see if DeBoer gets some guys in here that, because he's recruiting very well. I mean, he's got the number 2 class in the country. Now he's getting a bunch of dudes that we don't know about. I mean, a bunch of dudes from California who happen to be 5 stars or high 4 stars, and that's wonderful. And I'm just going to be interesting to see how they translate into this conference. Saban's been doing it well, but Saban's the master. So let's see how that goes. But, I think this is going to be an eye-opening experience for him. I'm sort of like, I'm glad he's been to Tennessee. I'm glad he's been to LSU. Now, I mean, LSU did what LSU does. When you start beating them pretty good, they clear out very early. And they did. But the initial crowd was very difficult to him. The initial crowd at Tennessee was very difficult to him. And I say all that knowing we play in Tuscaloosa today, but I think the crowd is going to be interesting, because the first time, if Auburn gets the ball first and makes a couple of first downs, I think you're going to hear a lot of grumbling. And it's going to be difficult for him to deal with that. I mean, while he's been at Washington, people forget, he needed a late pick 6 to beat Arizona State, who was not good last year. This version of Arizona State may go to the playoffs. Last year, they were 3-9. So I don't know how to explain it. You just got to go coach in it. I mean, there ain't no way to do it. But I think
it's baptism by fire.
It is. What you said, Andy said. I've said that for before. I mean, in the 90s.
Nobody enjoys this game. Fans.
I think Auburn fans get more fun out of winning than Alabama fans do, and I think Alabama fans feel more angst out of losing than Auburn fans do. Now, I'm 100% biased, but I can tell you, every time this game is over, all I go is thank God.
All right, guys. Let's go to our last break. We come back and we'll close this show out. I think everybody feels the same way at the end. You're like, I'm just glad it's over. Now we got to
out of here.
turn around. Just get it out. All right, stay tuned. One final segment coming up right after this.
I want to go to Luke on 2 when we come back. Injuries and offensive line play, Luke. Has it been as bad as
Richard has it?
Yeah. So the left side.
What y'all doing with him back there?
I think the Alabama run blocking's been pretty solid.
Okay.
It's been okay, but I think
the pass blocking's had some issues.
Well, we have to block 18 times a game because they only turn around and hand it off combined 18 times.
If I was a running back at Alabama, I mean, there is no doubt in my mind 100% that one of the running backs will transfer and one of them, Jam Miller, may go pro. Like, if I were Justice Haynes, I would want to transfer. Because, number one, though, I'll say this. I don't know that Justice Haynes is as good as we thought he was going to be. He is a workout warrior. But, I mean, I've seen some of those before. And, his first game, he goes 85 yards on a carry, and everybody thinks, oh, God, Katie barred the door. And maybe he's just not there. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if he transferred. And they may want him to. That's the other thing. I think they're going to want some of these guys that we think are good players to either go pro or not be there next year. I feel like, again, this is from somebody who talks to people on the team, that Jalen Milroe is probably going to be encouraged to do something else. Like, he could come back, but I just don't think he fits DeBoer's scheme super well. I mean, I thought it was going to be really good, but there's something.
You watch Penix Jr. and he's got all the throws, and he's got all the throws with touch. Milroe struggles with those 10-yard flicks out into the flat. They look like they come out awkward. He's got the big arm, but, he just doesn't have that finesse type throw that looks like you have to have in DeBoer's system to me.
Yeah, and Milroe's so emotional. I mean, he is like, when he's up, man, he's the happiest. Roll Tide, he's Roll Tide Willie when he's up. Yeah. When he's down, he looks over there and he's like, everything's like, I don't even want to go.
Right. It's the highs and the lows with some of these kids, man. John said that Nick's wife also commented that hosting all the players at their lake house was no longer impactful with players after NIL became part of the picture. It's not a big deal anymore. I mean, that ain't some special privilege anymore. I mean, I hate it. I mean, I think we all hate this. It's the world we live in now, because it's just a bunch of entitled, what you going to do for me? And all anybody ever talks about is how much more money we're going to raise. And we ain't got enough. And we got to get more. Oh, we got this, but ain't enough. Got to get more, because we got more people requesting more.
Somebody else brought up a great point in a group chat yesterday. They're like, maybe NIL did level the playing field. I said, how level is this? Michigan's got a guy that's worth $233 billion. They just said, how much is and he's married to a girl that loves Michigan football. She's like, I want to be a quarterback. So he called Dave Portnoy.
Here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Don't have enough time to dive into the NIL talk that we were having during the break here on social media. But, Randy, I'll kick it over to you. I know you got a couple questions for Luke here before we get out.
Well, injuries. We've heard of some of the injuries, mainly Deontay Lawson. Are there any other injuries? And then maybe talk about the offensive line play, Luke, because whether we like to say it or not, that's probably where the game's going to be won on both sides of the ball. And there's been some major issues on the left side of that line for Alabama. And why is that, and your thoughts around it?
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line just hadn't been great. I mean, it's been okay. I was shocked as anybody when they were named on the Joe Moore Award watch list. I thought you'd have a better chance of finding the guy that John Dent was looking for earlier today than finding him on that list. But they just had Elijah Pritchett had the worst game I've seen an Alabama offensive lineman have since Chris Capps in the Iron Bowl 2007.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. That's how bad it was. That bad.
Can he play like that today, Luke? Please.
I don't know that he can. I used to say this when Chris Capps played in that game. I said I would rather put an empty garbage can out there, and at least then the Auburn player would have been like, "Why they got a garbage can out here?" And it would have held him up for a second. But Elijah Pritchett this last week was propelling people into the quarterback. He was like giving them a push in the back to him. And I've never seen anything like it. And so while everybody was killing Milroe and Milroe did not have a good game, it's hard when somebody's just right on top of you before the snap. You know what it reminded me of? You know the movie Wildcats? When that big offensive lineman just finally said, "I'm just going to move out of the way and let some people go by because they weren't paying him enough." Yeah,
Auburn's had a bunch of them in the last 10 years. Yeah. Luke, we've been watching that quite a bit. Ask Bo Nix how it worked out for him. All right, Wade, I'll kick it over to you. Some final thoughts. We got about 4 minutes left here in the show, and I'm getting my instructions from our boss in the studio of when I've got to get out, so I'm trying to make sure I do that. So just your final thoughts here.
I think it's going to be an old-fashioned Iron Bowl from the 80s. It's going to be a war. I think that Auburn keeps it within the number for sure. I feel a little bit more confident about Auburn after talking to Luke today. Thanks, Luke. Alabama.
We needed it after talking to Jason yesterday.
I mean, really, rank Mr. Rain on Our Parade, Caldwell, right in the Auburn Blitz.
Hey, I've been through enough therapy. I know how to give some back on the other
side. Here we are thinking Auburn's going to roll, and Jason Caldwell says we're done. So I think it's a race to 24. Regardless of the struggles and ups and downs of Jalen Milroe, I do still feel like all around he is the X factor player in this game. And when you have that guy on your team, you have the advantage, Alabama being at home as well. I am interested in that crowd too up there. Are they going to be really fired up like an Iron Bowl normally, or are they going to be flat? I think that Alabama wins this game very late in dramatic form and rips Auburn's heart out again. But don't worry, Auburn fans. I do think that we finally have turned a corner and are moving in the right direction. I've got the Tide today, 24, Auburn 23.
I'm going to go the opposite. And normally I'm not the one to do this, but I'm going into an Iron Bowl where I'm not wanting to go to the golf course with Brett Pritchard to stay away from the television and not watch it. But I'm going to go with 86 score, 21-17 Auburn. Auburn's going to need 3 touchdowns and get plus 20 points to win it, but they've got to hold Alabama down and take the blueprint that was given a couple of times this year, mainly last week, and keep Jalen Milroe in the pocket and don't let him beat you with his legs. And Ryan Williams is going to have a couple of big plays. I think it's going to happen, but I hope it's not too many. So 21-17 Auburn.
All right, Luke.
I mean, all week I've been, and this is a complete homer because I just don't want to hear the comments hit. and I've said 27-24 Alabama. In my heart and in my head, I believe that Auburn wins a very close game. And, then it sort of see what goes from there. But, I guess my official stance, because it'd be sort of crappy for me to change my pick on every other show and then do something different here. But I'll go 27-24 Alabama. I don't feel good about it at all. I wouldn't bet on it. Don't want to stay near it. Don't even want to watch it. I'm going to go play golf myself. I don't even have any clubs. I'm just going to be walking down Inverness, just milling about.
Hey, just put the face up in front of you, and that way nobody knows. Hey, the scary thing is, Luke, I picked the same score, 27-24. I had 28-24 Auburn until Jason Caldwell called in, and I took a point off yesterday because I said that was worth at least minus 1 point after that. So, again, I've got 27-24. Justin said he's got 27-20 Alabama. John wants to know if he thinks or if we think that it'll go into overtime. We can't go into overtime because we got to get out right now. But, guys, it's been a great show here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. We want to thank everybody for watching out there, and we'll be back with you next week for another edition of Brady Bunch on the Saturday Sports Countdown. All right, guys.
Randy don't want
Hey, my God. Him and Waits.
he doesn't say bye up you.
He said, John said Bama 31-20. So
I mean, I'll take.
I don't think anybody knows, man. I really don't.
I wouldn't bet on this game for anything.
Nothing. It could easily be a blowout. I mean, for Alabama. I mean, Justin put the smile. John said, "Can you just go? Can we put that face up in all four screens?" That was pretty good, man. All right, hey, is Krista back from Africa?
Oh yeah, she's back. Yeah,
she's back.
She's been
So,
back. I got all the kids here. That's why I'm not going. I mean, I
did
got
she
all
bring
the
a
kids.
line? Did she bring a line or anything back with her?
She had I don't know. She got some kind of something furry that she didn't kill but bought or did something. I don't know. Yeah, I got all the kids here, so I was like, man, I ain't paying $200 a ticket, and if to be freezing, and we might lose.
Right.
Like,
I can't believe you didn't inch your way into Larry's box.
I can't inch in there with 6 people.
Y'all come on in.
Yeah, I'd love to if I could WD-40 myself and them and get them on in there. So,
hey man, well, all right. Well, let's endure the pain in a few hours. We'll see what happens.
She said that she blessed the rains.
Oh.
Man,
I love that, man. That's great,
buddy.
Justin.
That's good. All right,
See you,
bye.
brother. All right, bye.